What is good, YouTube? My name is Ash Porter, and today I have an absolute banger of a book for you. It is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. So I think at this point, right, I'm meant to have some like really cool intro and graphic and that promotes my channel or whatever, but I don't. So let's go on with it. So the way this video and these book reviewy type things are going to work is they're going to be split into three different parts. The first part I'm going to talk about, like, is the book any good? Do I recommend it? Who would I recommend it to? The second part, we're going to skim over kind of the brief synopsis, what's going on in the book, what is the key information that we have found. And then the third part is when you read a book like this, a bit of non-fiction that's informative and meant to help you, it's worth applying it to your life. And so for me, I'm going to give some examples about how I might apply what I've learned from this book to my life. Is it a good book? That is the first question. And my answer, it is plain and simply a quality book. It is so good. So go and read or listen to it. What I love about this book is that it's so full of amazing content, whether it's like the research that's gone into it, the stories that he tells to give examples of how this road to success works, and the statistics that you can find in it. All of it is such high quality and such important information to know about success. And not only that, it's really easy to read, and whether you read books or whether you listen to them audibly, it's so easy to follow on. This book isn't like full of ginormous words in which nobody understands. It's meant to be read by anyone. It's easily accessible, and also it's just not even that long. Like, it's only about 300 pages. It's so accessible, it's so for everyone, yet it's so full of gold. Whether you're just interested in how the giants of our world made it to where they are and what it takes on that road to success, or whether you yourself are like a young entrepreneur, a budding athlete, or whatever passion you have and you want to see success in it, I would honestly recommend this book to pretty much anyone. So to summarize, I think I made it pretty clear. Read the book or listen to it. Either way, enjoy it. So now we're going to jump into the main information from the book. But before I do this, right, I was wondering, in like videos like this or reviews and that kind of stuff, normally with like a fiction book, you'd put like a spoiler warning, like saying, don't watch any further, otherwise the book might be ruined for you. Do you like do the same thing for non-fiction? Like, is it possible for me to like ruin this book for someone?
Yeah. You can ruin a non-fiction book.
I don't know, by saying like, you can't just get success by putting in 10,000 hours of hard work.
Whoa.
Like, has that ruined someone's day?
What is the point in reading this anymore?
But anyway, some of the first key bits of information, I want to read a quote which I think is so important to this whole book. And it says, success is not a random act. It arises out of a predictable and powerful set of circumstances and opportunities. What Gladwell is basically saying here, and he says throughout the book, that success is predictable, that there is actually a formula to success. There is a way in which everyone can follow a structured, well, maybe not a structured way of achievement, but it is accessible to everyone if you have a few different things. And so you're probably wondering right away, like, what are those factors? What is the formula to success? And so the first two things we really need to talk about, and the keys to success, are first, hard work. That seems like the obvious one. You've got to work hard if you want to succeed. But the second one, a little bit more rogue, a little bit more out there, but he talks about it a lot, and that is luck. So let's start off looking at luck. Like I said, it's a bit of a rogue factor, but actually there's some really interesting stuff behind what makes luck so important in success. And so the reality is that some people are just lucky. Some people get the most outrageous opportunities put in front of them, and the real successful people, they know how to make the most of them. But the first step is having those opportunities in the first place. But luck is also much broader than it first seems. It's not just about like one random coincidence that's going to make you successful. It's actually down to a number of different factors. And so some of the things that Gladwell talks about in the book are like when you're born, specifically like the year you're born can have a huge factor on your pursuit, but also when within your year you're born. Like let's say you're born in the end of September rather than the end of August. That can play a huge difference into your development and success. Again, if you want to know more about that, read the book. I'm not going to go into it here. But also there's other things like what kind of family you're born into, whether you were born into wealth or not, the way you were raised, your cultural heritage, and even the early opportunities you are given. All of these factors come under this branch of luck. They're things you can't control. They're things outside, of your ability to work hard and work for it. They are luck. Now, obviously, when it comes to these things, we have to take it with a pinch of salt, because the reality is you can have people who are, by luck's sort of way, thrown into the worst circumstances. They're born into poverty. They have no support. They have no real opportunities. Yet, with hard work, determination, with real grit, that they somehow manage to make it to the top and become really successful. Now, that does happen. However, it's not what happens all the time. Most of the time, these circumstances have a huge effect on how we're going to succeed and whether we really will ever succeed. The sad thing is, like someone who's born into a really wealthy family with parents who are super supportive and pushy and put them into sports and are really behind them in their schoolwork and all that kinds of stuff, they are much more likely to succeed than someone who isn't born into that, who's born into poverty and their parents spend most of their time just trying to earn ends meet to keep the family alive. There's huge differences, and that's just a sad reality we face. And so luck may be a really big factor in success, whether we like it or not. However, the central cog in success, in our own personal success, is down to how hard we are willing to work. Throughout the book, that is such an important thing and is shown by case study after case study of people who have been willing to work really hard. Gladwell says that working hard is just what successful people do. There isn't any ifs or buts. You have to be able to work hard. Now, this book is famous for this idea of the 10,000 hour rule, this concept that if you have a skill, let's say you're a footballer and you want to become elite, you want to become world class at football, you have to put roughly in 10,000 hours of hard, good, solid practice to get to that level. So to put that into perspective, if I was to play football for 20 hours every week, now bear in mind that's actually a lot of time to be playing football, 20 hours a week, it would take me just under 10 years to reach 10,000 hours. That is a long time. This isn't a small thing. This is a significant chunk and commitment that takes people from being like decent or average to world class at what they do. But I think hard work is more than just putting in your 10,000 hours into your skill or profession. It's about a real grittiness, a willingness to give everything to succeed. It's been being able to, when luck gives you those opportunities, that you take them by the scruff of the neck and you make the most of those opportunities. And consequently, because of your hard work and that one initial opportunity you got, you then start making more and more opportunities for yourself. Gladwell has this amazing quote, which I think summarizes all of this, which is right at the end of the book. And he says, "It's not the brightest who succeed. If it were, Chris Langan would be up there with Einstein. Nor is success simply the sum of our decision and efforts we make on our own behalf. It is rather a gift. Outliers are those who have been given the opportunities and who've had the strength and presence of mind to seize them." I don't know about you, that makes me feel pretty good. 1, it's not the brightest who are going to succeed. It's not. 2, it's down to luck. That bit where he says, nor is success simply the sum of our decision and efforts we make on our own behalf. You know, the reality is we need a little bit of luck. We need a little bit of outside help, stuff that's outside of our control. However, he rounds it off by saying, outliers are those who've been given the opportunities and who've had the strength and presence of mind to seize them. That's what hard work is. It's willing to put in that graft so that when those opportunities come, you are ready. You are ready, you have your 10,000 hours and you can seize those opportunities and fly succeeding. I just want to interrupt quickly to say, if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, you dropped it a like, even comment below telling me what you're enjoying, what you've learned from Outliers, are you going to read the book? It all really helps the channel, and yeah, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So now we've briefly gone over the key information and what really stood out to me and I think I've learned and taken away from this book. But now we want to look at applying this. You know, you read a book like this and the reality is you have to start doing something with that information. It's all right just to read it and say, you know, I read this great book, I learned this stuff. But if you're not actually letting it affect your life, there really isn't a point, you know, and it's about affecting your future more than just your present as well. And so I've been thinking about this for me and what does it look like to apply Outliers to my life? So there are two things for me that I've really felt like I could start applying to my life and thinking about that I've learned from this book. Now the first one is all to do with my work ethic and this idea of working really hard just because that is what successful people do. I know, if I'm being really honest with myself, that my whole life, up to my 24 years of age now, I've really struggled with having a good work ethic. I can look back on when I was playing tennis seriously when I was a kid, and I just didn't put in enough work and it started to show, and then that's why I ended up quitting tennis. You know, whether it comes to school where, you know, I gave up, if I'm being really honest, on most of my school career. And so obviously I wasn't putting the work ethic in. And I can think of multiple other times where it's let me down, where I haven't succeeded the way I should because I haven't been working hard enough. My work ethic hasn't been good enough. Now, that's really hard for me to admit. Like, I sit here and I may be like smiling for the camera, but it kind of stings a little bit. But I know, and I feel inspired by this book, that actually I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try and learn to change my work ethic. And so the second thing that really stood out is this idea of the 10,000 hour rule. You know, I've sat here and I've read this book and I've been like, you know what, this is incredible that people do this, but I've never had anything that I've been like willing or loved enough to put 10,000 hours in it to become world class. Someone once described my personality as like a magpie, where I see something and I really like it and I really enjoy it and it's like, oh, sparkly new thing, and I do it for a short amount of time and then something else grabs my attention. I'm like, oh, sparkly new thing, and go and do that. And so I've never really committed to anything like really seriously. And so I've been sat in, I'm like, well, is there stuff that I want to be really good at? And two things came to mind. One is definitely a future one, but you know what I actually want to be really successful at? I want to be an absolute kick-ass parent. Like I said, that is a little bit down the line, but when I get to that point, I want to be an absolute beast with that. I want to, and you know, I can't practice now. It's not like I can prepare now for having a kid and put in my 10,000 hours, but I can do little things. I can improve myself, improve my marriage, that kind of stuff. But I want to be a kick-ass dad. When I have a kid, I'm going to put in the graft to make sure that I become world class at that. But I think the other thing that's really stood out to me is I heard this phrase once from a rapper called, oh, there's a little bit of dust, sorry about that. And this rapper called Professor Green, right? And he described himself as a wordsmith. And I love that phrase, this idea of like being a crafter of words. And I've thought that about myself and like, you know what? I'd love to be a wordsmith. I'd love to be able to call myself someone who can craft and use words in so many different elegant ways, whether that's like writing or speaking or even like poetry, and like I love rap but I'm not a rapper, but that kind of stuff. I'd love to be able to be a wordsmith. And, you know, for me that's quite hard though, because I've always struggled with words, like whether it's been speaking, like I always like stutter my words and it can be a struggle sometimes, or I've never been good at English at school. Like I sucked, I can't spell. My wife, she thinks I'm dyslexic. I disagree. I've never been tested. It's always been a struggle, yet I feel like there's something in it. And so I'm like hoping that maybe when I'm 35, 45, however long it takes, I'd love to put the time into becoming a wordsmith. Right, I think that's the end of the video. So if you enjoyed the video and you got this far, thank you so much for watching. Maybe if you've read this book or you've learned from what I've said today, comment in the chat maybe what would you love to put 10,000 hours into, or what have you learned from Outliers? I'd love to hear it. It's always good to learn from each other. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video, and hopefully I will see you soon.